Last October, on Pride Sunday, I gave a reflection about the emotion of pride. In it, I said that I am proud of my two children, not only for their accomplishments, but also more importantly, because they are people of good character. And I've been thinking now about what it means to be a person of good character. What are the characteristics of good character? We don't talk about that much directly in our UU culture, and I think we should. And let me explain. Until 2024, our Unitarian Universalist Association affirmed and promoted a set of 7 principles, each expressed as a sentence. The first was the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And the 7th was respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. I could always remember those 2, and sometimes some of the others, but I agreed with all of them. They were adopted in 1987 and were supposed to be revised every 15 years. It didn't happen straight away. It took longer than that. And I think one of the reasons that they wanted to change it was because it was beginning to sound too much like a creed. And we don't do creeds, we do covenants. But in 2024, after a multi-year process, with lots of discussions, lots of votes, that's the UU way, these principles were replaced by 6 shared values: interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity, all centered around love. You have likely seen the graphic that illustrates this. Now, each word comes with a description and a call to action. For example, pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. And then the call to action is, we covenant to learn from each other in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Okay. This is all good. And these 6 shared values are easier to remember, perhaps, than the 7 principles, especially because they are single words, and especially because you can arrange the first letters of those words to spell jet pig. It works. Justice, equity, transformation, plurality, interdependence, and generosity. Jet pig. I was really glad when that was pointed out to me. It's really helped. However, this gets to the nub of what I think we are missing. These are all collective values, values that we want to describe our society, both in our own congregation and more broadly in the society in which we live. We want it to be a just society. We want it to be a society that embraces transformation, pluralism, etc. And it certainly means that we as individuals should share those values also. But are there more fundamental values that these collective values should build on? What kind of people should we be so that we can create a society that has those values that we say are important? To use an older term, what personal virtues might we consider to be foundational to being a good person, a person of good character? Is there anything like a set of virtues that can be the foundation for a society that is loving, just, and pluralistic? You could consider the question more or less negatively as boundaries, like on old maps. Beyond there be monsters. Or you could consider the question more positively. What is the ground from which the society we want can grow? What do we plant so that we get a garden and not weeds? So here's an example. Honesty. To me, that is fundamental. A person of good character needs to be an honest person, someone you can count on to tell the truth. It is certainly fundamental to science. You don't fudge the data or leave out data that is inconvenient, but it's much more broad than that. It's true of life in general. We need people who will speak truth to power. We want to live with trustworthy people. And even more basic is being committed to being honest with yourself. Failing to do that is the first step on the slippery slope. Now, in my own life, there have been times that I have acted in ways that were hurtful and wrong. But in each of those cases, I first convinced myself that what I was doing was right. I was justified. And I wasn't. As Shakespeare wrote, "This above all to thine own self be true, and then as follows night the day, thou canst not be false to any man." So, shouldn't one of our shared individual values and virtues be honesty? Now, I am partial to the word virtue in this context. A value is something I hold dear. A virtue is a characteristic that I display. So I'm going to use the word virtue. Now, the idea of individual virtues or basic expectations is a very, very old one. Think of the Ten Commandments. Some are stated positively. Honor your father and your mother. Some are stated as prohibitions. Do not steal, kill, or commit adultery. These are commandments about individual behavior that support a stable society. Now, sidebar, there's an old joke that you believe in 6 of the 10 commandments. And everybody gets to choose which 6. Now, some form of the golden rule appears in every religious tradition. Treat others as you wish to be treated. Now, that's an instruction directed to individuals that collectively would create a better society than we've ever seen. Need a drink. Aristotle and Plato wrote about virtues, as did the Roman Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. They described 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, the ability to discern what is truly good, bad, and indifferent, making decisions aligned with reason; justice, treating others fairly and with respect, acting for the common good; temperance, self-control and moderation, maintaining balance in emotions and behavior; and courage, physical and moral courage, endurance in the face of hardships, willingness to do what is right, even when it is difficult. So, I was wondering if there might be a set of individual virtues that we might agree are important and would lead to the collective behavior that we want to see in our society. Now, we won't all agree, of course, and certainly not quickly. The UUA Commission worked for 4 years, and I've only been thinking about this for a few weeks, and I'm a committee of 1. But I gave it a go, And to make this even more challenging, I decided to use that same floral motif of 6 petals with something in the center. Whoops. Water, that's all. I left the beer at home. So, that's what we're going to fill out. Now, people are complicated creatures, and there are lots of potential virtues. But as with the 10 Commandments, we're going to do 6. So, here we go. First one is honesty. I've already described why I pick honesty. I should be honest, especially with myself. Next, humility. It goes along with honesty. I acknowledge that I am limited and fallible, and I should respect others' decisions and choices. Now, I recognize the irony here. Am I being humble, standing up here and telling you all how to behave? Well, take this as suggestions from a very fallible person. Okay, next, courage. I should face challenges and hardships and be willing to do what is right, even when it's difficult. And next, empathy. I should try to understand other people and their feelings and relieve their suffering, however much I can. And then patience. I should take time to decide how to act and think long-term, beyond the immediate moment. And for number 6, curiosity. There is more about this world and people than I will ever know. So I should be open and explore. Now, a word about courage. C.S. Lewis described courage as not simply one of the virtues, but a form of every virtue at its testing point, when doing what is right has a cost. Principles are most important when they're difficult to follow. Courage is as important as honesty. So, now these are the 6 that I picked. I really want a few more petals, but these have merit. A person with these characteristics will, in the words of our anthem, see the day beyond the horizon and do what must be done. Now, what to put in the center? Well, it could be love. I don't think necessarily it's the best choice to tie these 6 together. It's easy to see how love connects to empathy. But is it a stretch to see it as the basis for courage? Well, it could be if you recognize that love is not just passive, but can and should demand action. But honestly, partially just to be different. I looked for an alternative to love. Now, reaching back to my childhood, I mostly learned what good character is by watching my parents. But scouting was also a big influence. I joined Cub Scouts when I was about 6 and stayed with it into my teens. Now, what was appropriate for me as a boy in the 1950s and 60s doesn't totally fit now, of course. But the very beginning of the Scout Oath is relevant here. On my honor, I will do my best. So, honor. Now, honor may be a difficult word for some. It's been used to justify many dishonorable actions sometimes. And it has connotations of battle, perhaps. But I choose to go with the positive connotations. We address judges as your honor, as a show of respect for the court and for the judiciary in general. And it goes back to the time when judges were chosen from the community. People chose judges who displayed wisdom and could be trusted to be unbiased and honest. To honor is to show respect to someone who is admired and who displays high moral standards of behavior. Now, that kind of honor is bestowed. But I really mean honor here to be something internal to a person, how they view themselves. A person with a strong sense of honor holds themselves to high standards of behavior. They don't do what they know they shouldn't, and they do what they know they should, even when it has a cost, especially when there's a cost. Sometimes it is a battle. A person of good character is an honorable person. A person who is honest, humble, empathetic, courageous, curious, and patient is an honorable person. My children are people of good character. They are honorable people, and I am proud of them. Now, whether or not you would pick these particular virtues as defining good character, I hope I've made my point that if we want to build a society that shares the values of justice, equity, transformation, interdependence, plurality, and generosity, all centered on love, then we need people who individually display some fundamental virtues. We should talk about virtues. We should teach them to our children. We should expect them in each other and hold ourselves, and certainly our leaders, accountable to them. We and they should be honorable people, people of good character. Do I demonstrate these characteristics? Not always, for sure. It is hard. But on my honor, I try to do my best. May it be so.